International High School. I'll urge you all to like and subscribe to WASSCE History TV. Thank you. Love you all.
Hello there. I welcome you once again to our WASSCE History TV. And today we are going to look at a very important topic in the political history of the country, Ghana. And basically, we are going to look at Ghana and the international community, or in the international committee. And today we are going to look at one of the international committees that Ghana joins. And one of them is the United Nations Organizations, known as the UNO, or the UN for short. And that is what we'll be looking at. We shall be looking at other committees in the course of our discussions. So today we are going to look at the introduction to the UNO, or the UN. When we talk about the UN, we will look at a very short history behind the UN, its formation, and how the UN was actually formed. And so we will look at a short history about the formation of the UN. And then we will look at the aims of the UN, or the aims of the UNO. So what is the aim of the UN? What does the UN seek to achieve? And that is what we will look at. So let's go in there and look at our lesson objectives for today. So one of our lesson objectives for today is that by the end of this lesson, you should be able to state the member states of the UNO, or the member states of the UN. So that is basically the number of course, the states that join the UN. You should be able to state some of them. And then also, you should be able to state the aims of the UNO, the aims of the UN. What does the UN seek to achieve? And most importantly, which I did not add here, you should be able to also describe or discuss the formation of the UN. You know, how the UN came into being, what prompted the UN. So you should be able to describe the formation of the UN as well by the end of this discussion. So let's go in there and first of all and look at the formation of the UN, how the UN was formed. Good. So let's begin with the first one. Now, the United Nations Organization, or popularly known as the UN. But before we look at the UN, you know, when Ghana gained independence, there was the need for Ghana to join other other communities, other international committees around the world, because as an independent nation, you couldn't stay alone, and even as an individual, you can't stay alone. Okay, you need to have associations so that when you are in need, these association members could come to your aid. And so basically, that was that. So let's look at a brief introduction about the formation of the UN. Now, the UN was formed on June 25th in 1945, and after 51 countries signed the UN Charter in San Francisco, which is in the United States of America. And so the UN Charter was an agreement signed after the Second World War. All right, after the Second World War, the British Prime Minister and Roosevelt Franklin, the then American president, met, and then they drafted that charter. And so the UN organization was formed on 25th June 1945, and 51 countries signed the charter, and the charter was signed in San Francisco in the United States of America. And Poland was the last country which signed the charter. So Poland was the 51st, of course, country to sign the charter as at 1945. at that time. Good. And don't also forget that this is an objective topic, and therefore, they can ask you anything at all, the names or what so on. Now, the UN had its or has its headquarters in the New York. Of course, that is in the US of A. And this image you find here, the building you see here, is the UN headquarters now, which is situated in New York, in the United States of America. The UN officially came into existence in 24th October 1945, when the charter had been carefully studied and approved by the permanent members or the permanent members of the UN. And we shall basically look at these permanent members. We shall look at something about them when we get to the organs of the UN in our subsequent videos. So in 1945 or 24th October, the UN came into being after the charter had been approved by China, France, the Soviet Union, that's of course Russia today, the United Kingdom, and then the United States, as you've seen their flags being displayed over here. China, France, Soviet Union and Russia, the United Kingdom, and then the US. So these people or these countries are termed as permanent members because of the influence that they wielded after the World War II. Okay, and so basically we look at who the permanent members were and why were they referred to as the permanent members. Good. Let's then move on to now. Let's look at the reasons for the formation of the UNO. Now, the UN was formed as a result of the failure of an earlier organization, which was known as the League of Nations. And the mandate of the League of Nations was actually to prevent the outbreak of a second world war. Okay, so after the First World War had occurred, various European powers, decided to stop or prevent the outbreak of another war, which would be known as the Second of the World Wars. And so the League of Nations was formed to prevent the outbreak of a Second World War. However, the League of Nations was not effective enough to prevent the outbreak of a Second World War, and therefore there was the Second World War, which was caused by Adolf Hitler of Germany. And currently the UN has 193 member states. Interestingly, Africa has 54 members of the 193, making Africa the only continent with the highest highest number of members. And it will interest you to know that Africa, being the highest continent with the number of member states, Africa has no representative on the permanent members, or it's not part of the permanent members. And we will look at the role of the permanent members, and you would understand why I'm saying the things that I'm saying as we move on. So bear in mind, at this stage, Africa has the highest, 54, total 193. Even currently, as of today, we have 93, or the UN had 193 member states. All right, good. So the United States, the UN, of course, Nations Day is celebrated in October. So you see, we said that it was formed on 25th June 1945. It was on this date that the charter was formed. Of course, the charter was signed by 51 countries, but the UN had not been formed as at that. It had not come into existence as at that time until the charter was, approved by these these 5 permanent members, until they approved the charter before the charter came into being. And so the UN Day is celebrated on 24th October. That is the day that the charter was actually approved. And Ghana became a member of the UN on 8th March 1957, and that was 2 days after the country gained independence. And like I indicated earlier, it as I mean, let's bring it down to our normal setting as a human being. You need to join other associations, other clubs in order to get help in terms of need. And this is the reason why, this was partly a reason why Ghana was committed to the UNO. And so there was the need for the country to actually join. Now, 6 official languages are used by the UN. All right. So if you go to the UN meeting, 6 official languages are accepted, on the floor, and therefore we have them: Arabic, Chinese, English, French, Russian, and then Spanish. And so again, I come here with the fact that Africa, which has the highest of members with 54 member states, none of our languages is being featured here. And that raises so much question about the continent. These languages you find there are languages for individual countries, yet they are there. But Africa continent, none of our languages is spoken over there. Good. I hope you have a very interesting. And this is the logo of the UN. In case you should come across it anywhere, this is the logo as you've seen it there. Fantastic. So let's look at the aims of the UNO. What are the aims? So the UN has 3 main aims. The first one is to maintain international peace and security. International peace and security. So I have already indicated that the League of Nations failed to prevent the outbreak of a Second World War. And so the mandate of the UN is to prevent the outbreak of a Third World War, because the First World War had already come. The Second World War has already occurred, and therefore the UN is now mandated to prevent the outbreak of a Third World War. And so whenever there is issues between two countries which has the possibility of bringing a Third World War, the UN steps in there. Good. To also develop friendly relations among nations so that all gears towards peace. To also foster international cooperation in solving economic, social, and humanitarian problems. And so when there is any crisis, the UN comes together to solve those crises, being it economic, social, and humanitarian issues. And so quite, for instance, when there was a famine in Somalia, you realized that the UN was sending Somalia food items and other, relief items for them to be okay. In Sudan, I think they did the same. And even in the period of the pandemic, the COVID, we saw the UN providing assistance to some of the countries that were hard hit by the pandemic. And so they come together, to, of course, cooperate and to find issues with regards to economic, and then also social, and then also the humanitarian problems of member states. Okay, good. So with this, we will bring our discussion to an end. But you should know that the main mandate of the UN is to prevent the outbreak of a Third World War, and that is to maintain international peace and then security. Good. We will bring our discussion to an end. Subscribe to the channel and make sure you recommend it to your friends as well. So this is a past question which came in 2012. They wanted you to name the headquarters of the following international organizations where the headquarters were actually found. So the UN is here. We will look at OAU, ECOWAS, and then the Commonwealth in our subsequent videos. So if nothing, call. If you don't have any question, if you have any question, you can WhatsApp me on 05420830047, and we'll have a chit chat. Have a nice day. Thank you for your time. And
WASSCE History TV, first among equal. Bye.